If you've ever wondered, how do I improve negotiation skills in the workplace? Stick around, this video is for you.
You ready for me?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Have a seat.
Because whether you want to talk to your boss about a long overdue promotion, or maybe you need to talk to a colleague about rejiggering how you divide projects, negotiations in the workplace abound. I'm Bob Bordone. I'm a senior fellow at Harvard Law School. I've spent more than 2 decades teaching negotiation on the faculty of Harvard Law School before I founded the Cambridge Negotiation Institute. Unfortunately, because of the Omicron surge, I'm joining you from my office today, but I will be back in the studio in a few weeks. In this video, I'm going to share 5 specific, actionable steps that you can take to improve your negotiation skills in the workplace. And if you stick to the end, you will hear the story of how one of my most amazing Harvard Law School students ever negotiated to found Harvard Law School's now famous entrepreneurship project. Your first step in improving your negotiation skills at work is to really expand your view of what actually might be negotiable. In a lot of the coaching work that I do, one of the biggest reasons why some people seem to get more, whether it's related to pay or perks or titles or benefits or responsibility, is not because they're doing better work or even because they're more politically connected. Rather, they often see certain situations as opportunities to negotiate, whereas others simply don't. Now, it's never easy to know in a negotiation what is negotiable and what might be seen as inappropriate or rude or maybe just showing the kind of chutzpah that would annoy a boss or a colleague or a team.
Number 14, declining to speak first. Makes them feel uncomfortable, puts you in control.
And while it's true that there are issues and there are contexts that are sometimes not negotiable, my observation is that more often than not, people don't even consider the possibility of negotiation. If they do, they kind of rule it out too quickly as not appropriate. So let me offer a real example. You've completed your annual review. Your boss has sung your praises, told you how great you are, and that you're a valued member of the team. They maybe say, you have the combination of ingenuity and hard work that's meant a lot during these COVID times. And so as a result, they say you're being promoted from assistant to associate director of your department. And you'll be added to the appropriate Slack channels for associate directors. So you're delighted and you're thankful and you walk out. But of course, in the back of your mind, you might be thinking does this come with a pay increase? It's tough to know, right? The boss didn't mention it. They also talked about tough times as part of your review, and you don't want to upset them. I mean, they just promoted you at the quickest rate of virtually anyone in the company. Now, if you've ever found yourself in a situation a little bit like this, I'm going to say you miss an opportunity for a negotiation. I mean, it may well be the case that the promotion is in title only, but it is completely appropriate to ask the question around pay. And if the answer is still no, it's completely appropriate to consider whether there might be other benefits that come with this promotion apart from some nice business cards and maybe more work. For example, like maybe you could have access to a staff assistant. Maybe you could have some more flexibility in your work schedule. As soon as you rule out negotiation here because the boss doesn't explicitly mention something, you're missing not only an opportunity to negotiate for that thing, and maybe a salary increase in this case, right? But for potentially a whole lot more. Now, I can still appreciate that at times you're simply not sure where the negotiate, don't negotiate line is. My advice here is it's pretty much always better to just assume negotiation. I mean, if you initiate a negotiation with skill and then discover it might be inappropriate, it's usually pretty easy to just apologize without ruining your relationship with the person. Sometimes when I'm not sure of whether a particular tack is appropriate, I'll say something like, forgive me if I'm crossing a line, but I wouldn't be doing my job for myself if I didn't ask you about fill in the blank. Then I'll read the body language. I'm usually good at determining the difference between a genuine feeling of, wow, you have some nerve, Bob Bordone, versus maybe an unoffended bit of halting response. And if I get the latter, I'll say, you know that in the long run, I'm going to do much more valuable work in the work we're doing together, precisely because of my willingness to ask for what I think I deserve and what I think I need.
I think I deserve a raise.
On the other hand, let's say they seem really offended. Then I might say, gosh, I'm so sorry for crossing this line. I'm still learning what's appropriate and what isn't. And rest assured that I'll be learning from this experience, even as I always advocate on my behalf. My second piece of advice really builds on the first, and it relates to observation. Observe others in your organization or workplace who you think of as successful negotiators. One of my mentors at Harvard Law School was the late Roger Fisher. Roger founded the now famous Harvard Negotiation Project. He co-wrote the best-selling book Getting to Yes, and there are just countless stories about him and his negotiation skill and his many wonderful traits. But among the top of those traits, hone your skills of observation. So specifically in this case, if you identify someone in your workplace who is very successful at persuading others and who seem to do so not just because they have organizational power or authority, but because of their skill, pay attention to them.
What do you hear?
What do they do? What tactics seem successful? Are there ways you can replicate them? As a negotiation teacher, my job is to coach and share best practices, skills and behaviors that work in many different contexts. But even as I do this, I'm keenly aware that certain moves and behaviors land differently in different contexts. So the more you can hone your own skills of observation, the better you'll be in increasing your own negotiation capacity in the context in which you find yourself. Secondly, though, if you observe particular people who you think of as effective, consider actually reaching out to them. Ask them for advice on how they think about and approach their negotiations. What do they think works? They might be surprised you're asking them, but hardly anyone is offended when you tell them that you've been observing how they influence and persuade others in their workplace and want to learn from them, right? Most of us are pretty darn flattered by that. In the process of doing this, you'll not only get a chance to observe their moves, you might actually get an inside look onto their thinking. And that will help you enormously as you try to improve your own negotiation skills. This, of course, leads to a third pro tip, which is prepare with a colleague. Anyone who knows anything about negotiation or who has ever taken a negotiation class with me or engaged in any kind of coaching or consulting with me knows that one of the very key ingredients to success in a negotiation is actually practicing before heading into the arena.
All right, fine. Ring, ring. Hello?
I am always struck by how many really high-performing lawyers, people who would never walk into a courtroom or make an opening or closing statement or cross-examine a witness without a huge amount of preparation, will nonetheless nonchalantly enter a settlement negotiation with hardly any more preparation than maybe coming up with a bottom line or one or two arguments on their own behalf. To me, it's hard to imagine a more irresponsible way to negotiate on behalf of a client. So, when it comes to a workplace negotiation, you want to spend ample time preparing on your own by considering your interests, considering the interests of the other party, considering possible creative options that might meet those interests, by thinking about what will you do if you don't reach an agreement. But in the workplace context, it also can be really powerful to then take that prep and practice with a colleague, specifically actually doing some active role plays with that colleague. So the desk work preparation matters, like writing things out, but the role playing with a colleague about how you might actually do this in real life can make a really, really big difference.
Our prices have never been lower!
Okay, stop it!
For many years, I served as the faculty advisor to Harvard Law School's LGBTQ plus student organization. In the early 2000s, before LGBTQ folks could serve openly in the military, federal law required any institution that accepted federal funds to allow the military to recruit on campus. But allowing the military to recruit on the campus of Harvard Law School also violated the law school's own non-discrimination policy with respect to LGBTQ people. So when Harvard and other schools across the country sought to ban the military from coming on campus until it rescinded what was called its Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, the government threatened to withdraw federal funds. So as a result, schools like Harvard Law School actually ended up making an exception to their own non-discrimination policy and therefore allowed the military on campus. So during this period, some of the student leaders of the LGBTQ group met with me for counsel on how do we deal with the school administration on this. And so as part of our prep, we set up some sessions where I would play various members of the school's senior administration while the students tried to actually be the students. And these sessions proved invaluable in helping students stand their ground. Now, it'll be clear, they were not successful in getting the school to reverse its decisions. However, they negotiated many resources from the school that they wouldn't have otherwise gotten. Monies for retreats, for speakers, for special classes, and even for social events that they wouldn't otherwise have gotten. Moreover, these are conversations, negotiations that could have ended up in a very destructive way, but the practice helped actually build the relationship and achieve gains for them they wouldn't otherwise have had. Simply by enrolling myself in the personality of the administrators I knew, I was able to give the students a really useful dress rehearsal for the real thing. And so you can do this too. Also, don't forget that my video, How to Formulate a Negotiation Strategy, can help you prepare before you meet with your colleagues. So don't forget to watch that video as well. Fourth, choose the right time and place for your negotiation. For most of us, workplace negotiations are super stressful and the workplace is over busy. Especially these days when much of our work has moved remote. It might be pretty rare when we find ourselves physically in the workplace to even have a negotiation with a colleague or a boss or a direct report. Even though there might be fewer times we're in the office with our colleagues, it doesn't take away the importance of choosing an appropriate time and an appropriate place for our negotiation.
Tactic number 6. Change the location of the meeting at the last second. Totally throws them off.
A common and unhelpful occurrence I often hear is something like this. Oh, I tried doing what you suggested, Bob, but it doesn't work. And then I respond, I was like, gosh, I'm sorry to hear that. Can you tell me when and how you tried? And they'll be like, oh yeah, sure. So we meet every week, and as things were wrapping up, I mentioned this issue of workload. And I'll say like, well, what did they say? And my client will respond, well, they said everyone here is overworked these days, and I should try to get some rest this weekend, and don't forget to use my allotted vacation. And then I'll say like, okay, so like, what else did you do? And he'll be like, well, then I left. And when I hear this, I think like, this is not the time or the place to raise a serious negotiation issue about burnout or workload. If you want a negotiation to be treated seriously in the workplace, it's important that you don't squeeze it in on the way out the door or as point 5 of a 5-point email. Instead, give it the respect it and frankly your negotiation counterpart deserves. So avoid springing a serious negotiation on someone else as a surprise or in the last 30 seconds before a meeting ends or as you're walking toward your car at the end of the day. Finally, and importantly, ask for feedback. One of the most curious findings in workplace culture is that employees say that they are dying for feedback, but then they rarely ask for that feedback when the time comes. Now, I get it. The hesitancy is understandable. Feedback, of course, helps us grow, but it also can hurt. And we never know whether the feedback we're receiving is soft-pedaled, accurate, harsh. Having said that, right, if you want to improve your negotiation skills at work, it's worth asking for feedback whenever you can. Consider the example of one of my former students and now current colleagues, Daniel. So when Daniel was a law student, he was very involved in the life of the law school, and he started a negotiation with senior administrators for support for a new initiative he was founding related to entrepreneurship in the law. Suffice to say, the first meeting was a disaster. It went really poorly. Not only did he receive an unambiguous no, but he apparently alienated the folks involved with the decision in ways that made them quite dislike him. Now, for most very busy Harvard Law School students, they would have moved on. Not Daniel. Daniel came to me and because he knew I knew the parties and the context. And he asked for feedback. He described what he did and how they responded. And he said he wanted real feedback, not sympathy, not expressions of solidarity and support. And as I pushed him to relay this negotiation in detail, it became clear that his preparation had been pretty faulty. As many of us do, he'd focused way too much on his wants and his needs, and not enough on what the world looked like to the decision makers. But in our exchange, he was able to adjust his style, adjust his perspective. He took appropriate responsibility for why the first conversation went poorly, and then he set up a second meeting. The second meeting had a totally different and very salubrious ending. It resulted in the Harvard Law School's Entrepreneurship Project. This is now a thriving clinical student practice organization at Harvard Law School. So, if you want to improve your negotiation skills in the workplace, remember these 5 steps. First, take an expansive view of what's negotiable. Second, identify others in your workplace who are successful negotiators and pay attention to their behaviors. Consider enlisting them as a mentor or a coach. Third, prepare on your own, but then prepare with others by conducting a real-life mock role play. Fourth, always choose an appropriate time and place. And fifth, ask for feedback from those with whom you negotiate and perhaps others who may have insight into the situation. There are so many ways you can improve your negotiation skills, and all of that is available to you here on this YouTube channel. I want to direct you to how to control your emotions during a difficult conversation. Don't forget to like and hit the bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any content. And if you want to learn more about how to negotiate effectively in the workplace, or more broadly in your whole life, consider taking one of the many courses I offer to the Cambridge Negotiation Institute. And of course, keep watching the videos I post here. Don't go anywhere. Stay here and keep watching. You know you want to watch the next video. Click, 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 click.